Good afternoon and welcome to the Rotary Club of Harrisonburg. I'm Braden Hoover, Rotary President for this year. Let's start this meeting out as we start every meeting with the recitation of the four-way test. Please join me in the things we think, say, or do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Today's song is by Ash Eatwell, leading us in My Country 'Tis of Thee. Now let's turn to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Today's invocation is by Ken Horst. We have a couple guests I see today, so if you have a guest with you, would you please stand up and introduce them? Ken? Any other guests besides our program folks today? Okay. I have a couple family of Rotary announcements to share with you. Steve Wingfield's father-in-law has been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. So please keep he and Barbara in your thoughts and prayers. Bill Lee's mother, Nettie Sullivan Lee, passed away on May 13th. She was 103 years old and died peacefully. Please keep Bill and his family in your thoughts and prayers as well. Any further family of Rotary announcements for the greater good of the group? Okay. Several regular announcements here. Before I move to the two festivals that we have coming up in the next couple of weeks, I just wanted to make sure that if you are the leader of a committee and you need to host a meeting here at the Elks, please make sure that you tell leadership that, club leadership that, so that we can make sure that there is space available to you. And typically we need to meet over here as the Elks likes to clean up right after lunch. So if you need committee meeting space, please let me, Wayne, or John know. Scholarship committee, or the scholarship event is next week. We'll have it here. We'll expand the whole thing. So thanks to those of you who were planning that. It's one of our biggest and best meetings of the year. So thank you, Sue and Tom, in particular, for your leadership of that, as well as others. I also want to take a moment to thank publicly Andy Van Hook and Laura Tony Holsinger for that excellent ethics event last week. So if we could give them a round of applause. We are still getting compliments from parents and schools across the board. So thank you very much for that. Zoom just doesn't do it justice. Next up, we have one of our biggest festivals of the year. It's Strawberry Festival this coming Saturday. We still need a lot of volunteers. So if you, your spouse, your friends, your fellow Rotarians need a bit of a push, please do so. Here to tell us a little bit more about Strawberry Festival and to sell a few more tickets is Robin Newpower. Just to clarify, if you've already bought tickets, Steve has them with him today, so see him before you leave today to pick up those tickets. Valley Fest is the following week. Andy, help me out here. The 28th, Saturday, 28th over at Massanutten. I just heard today that we do not have any more volunteer spots, so thank you all for stepping up and helping with that. But we do need some ticket sales. So if you want to go out and enjoy a glass of wine, beer, music, vendors, all sorts of fun things, and to help childcare scholarships throughout our local community, please do so. Anything else to add, Andy, there? Okay, thank you. And finally, please continue to record your service hours with the rotograph that Michael sends out each week. Any additional announcements that I may have missed? Wait. Oh yes, June 16th event. We are working very hard on celebrating our centennial with at least one event this year. COVID has really sort of messed us up in celebrating 100 years of service here in the Valley. But mark your calendars, Thursday, June 16th, we will be at Bluestone for a social networking time with the rest of the clubs, as well as former Rotarians. So you won't want to miss that. We'll send out a hard copy invitation in the mail this week, and you will get additional information. Thanks, Wayne. That's good. Any other announcements before we move on? Okay, hearing none, I'd like to invite Les and Troy up to the front of the room. Troy is already a Rotarian, but I do want to read out our induction ceremony nevertheless. Fellow Rotarians, it is my privilege and pleasure today to welcome into membership in our club Troy Snyder, whose name was proposed by Les Helmuth. We're pleased to welcome Troy as a new member of our club. Troy, you have been approved for membership in this club because we believe you to be a worthy representative of your vocation, interested in the ideals of Rotary, and willing to actively participate in the service activities of the club. Rotary's official motto is service above self, and the object of Rotary is to encourage and foster the ideal of service as a basis of worthy enterprise, and in particular, to encourage the following things. First, the development of acquaintance as an opportunity for service. Second, high ethical standards in business and professions, the recognition of the worthiness of all useful occupations, and the dignifying of each Rotarian's occupation as an opportunity to serve society. Third, the application of the ideal of service in each Rotarian's personal, business, and community life. And fourth, the advancement of international understanding, goodwill, and peace through a world of fellowship of business and professional persons united in the ideal of service. We will now induct you into membership in the Rotary Club of Harrisonburg, Virginia, and to the Fellowship of Rotary throughout the world. Will the members please rise? Troy, Welcome to the Rotary Club of Harrisonburg. Fellow Rotarians, I am happy to present to you our newest member. Please join me in welcoming to our club. I've asked Troy to give a brief thumbnail, and then I will turn it over to Wayne to introduce our speaker.
Thanks. This should only take about 55 minutes. But now I hail to you from Ohio via Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My wife and I we met in north of Pittsburgh, and I graduated high school, enlisted in the Marine Corps, spent 4 years there, and then went on to college at Penn State University, and ended up working in Ohio, although lived across the border in Pennsylvania. I have always been in senior living for all my life. My wife and I have 7 children. 4 we adopted, the last 4. And, we often say we're not the smartest parents. If we were, we would buy 1 box of Cheerios and be done with it because the kids fight every morning. But yeah, we're so blessed to be here. Just the way the Holy Spirit has worked through our family to actually be in front of you today is it's just a God wink, as I call it. My sister-in-law lives in Front Royal, and we would come down every Thanksgiving to spend that weekend. And my brother-in-law was struck with stage 4 cancer himself, and we made a promise this Thanksgiving that if anything ever happened, we would make sure we took care of her. And didn't know what that looked like, and sure enough, first week of December he passes away. And at that same time, I got a call for Judith's position. And the recruiter said, "You're not going to believe this, but the position is 1 hour from where your sister-in-law lives." He knows our family and had already sent the information over to BMRC, and they liked me. So the blessing is just abound. So I'm really honored to serve. I do believe in our Rotary clubs, and Paul Harris Fellow. I've been Rotary Chair in Ohio, and really enjoy the community. So thanks for having me. Look forward to getting to know you. Thanks.
Somebody asked me recently if it was difficult to get all these speakers lined up every week, and I have to say I'm almost done with it. And it was not as hard as I thought it was going to be, because there's so many interesting groups in this valley, so many nonprofits, so many variety of businesses and people. And one of the interesting groups that some may know about, some may not, is the Governor's School. You're going to hear more about that today, possibly hear from a couple of students. We have Katherine Klus with us, who's the calculus and statistics teacher at Massanutten Regional Governor's School in Mount Jackson, taught teaching there for 9 years and also taught at Strasburg High School. Prior to teaching, she served as an officer in the U.S. Army for 7 years, spending most of her time in Germany on multiple deployments. She and her husband, Matt, are partners in the Woodstock Brewhouse. Interesting place. They love being active outdoors and traveling the world. She currently serves as treasurer on the U.S. Board of Directors of Nasaruni Academy, a school for Maasai girls in Narok, Kenya. So with that said, please join me in welcoming her to tell us more about the Massanutten Governor's School.
Feels very formal. I'm used to like walking around the classroom and talking. Thank you so much for having us today. We always enjoy the opportunity to share about our program, and more importantly, allowing us to bring some of our students, they can share their experiences, so that they are the best advocate for our program. And so I'll just give a little background of who we are, what we do, and then I'll let them share their experiences. But before I get started, let's
Hi, yeah, my name is Jordan Perez. I go to Harrisonburg High School. I'm a senior this year, and I'll be attending the University of Virginia next year.
I'm Matt Schaefer. I'm also a senior at Harrisonburg with Jordan, and I'll be going to William and Mary.
I'm Patrick Stapleton. I go to East Rockingham High School, and I'll be attending University of Richmond in the fall.
Hi, my name is Karina Peachy. I am also a senior at East Rockingham High School with Patrick, and I'll be attending the University of Virginia in the fall.
So you may have heard of our program, you may not have. So that's why we'd like to share with you who we are. So there are 17 governor schools in Virginia. We are one of them. We're actually one of the newest, formed in 2005. Our focus is through environmental science, and the students come from 4 school divisions. So Harrisonburg City, Rockingham County, Page County, and Shenandoah County. So 10 high schools that come to us for a half-day program. They come to us in the morning, and they go back to their base high schools in the afternoon. So our mission is to provide an integrated, collaborative, and inquiry-based curriculum that is centered around the exploration of human and environmental systems, both at the local, regional, and global level. So that's a mouthful. What that means is through our curriculum, we want to provide authentic learning with real-life applications in a collaborative environment. So all the students take the same courses. They come as 11th and 12th graders. They have their English classes, environmental science, agroecology, and math. And with their math courses, it's statistics their junior year, and then calculus their senior year. And then a big component of our program is the research program. So students have the opportunity to conduct a 1-year or 2-year research that is student driven. So where the students select a topic of interest, they conduct background research, then narrow their focus to develop a set of research questions. And then through that, they need to understand the type of data that they need to collect to answer those questions. And they collect, analyze, and they present their findings at the end of the school year. And many of them have the opportunity to present at the state level, the regional level. We actually have a student going to the International Science Fair this year as well. And so with that curriculum, I'm like, okay, what else should I share? So they have the opportunity to dual enroll all their classes. That means that they can leave our program with 40 college credits. And so many of them are graduating with associate's degrees or a certificate. Some of those other classes that they would need to take to get those degrees, they might have to take at their home school or on their own through, say, Blue Ridge or through Fairfax. And they also have the opportunity to take these courses as AP courses as well. And why don't I just go ahead and just drive through you.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Klus. So as Ms. Klus was saying, it's a very collaborative environment, and that's one of my favorite things about it. There's a much smaller emphasis on testing in the traditional sense. It's much more, they will give us a large project assignment, and we'll get into groups, and we'll work on solving the problem that they need to do. So it's a really different feeling from our base schools. It's a different experience. I love it a lot. I've talked to a few students who are at UVA that were in the Gulf School program in previous years, and they said that this program is absolutely one of the biggest things that prepared them for college and getting ready for life in general, just because it's such a different experience, and it's a lot more real world. We work with a lot more hands-on data and working with real problems rather than kind of the strange curriculum they give us at our base high school. So I love this program, and it's amazing.
Yeah, and I can just speak to that. One of the coolest things and most valuable experiences I think I get at Gov School is the application of the curriculum we learn. In the typical school setting, you will learn the material and then you'll be tested on it for memorization. But at Gov School, they take a different approach. It's more, we will learn different things in each of our 4 classes throughout the day, and then we'll apply those into a collaborative project. So for instance, one of our big projects in senior year is designing a completely sustainable city. So my group took on Ulaanbaatar, which is the capital of Mongolia. And what we did is we took what we learned in environmental science about how to get clean energy, and we made a geothermal plant. And then we talked about sustainable agriculture, about BMP practices, and how to minimize pollution when farming, and then we integrated that into our plan. So there's a lot of like integration that comes from all these different curriculums in each of the classes that really makes it a more valuable experience.
So echoing what everyone said before me, I definitely appreciate the program and have a great time at Gov School. Another example of a project we just did was Corinne and I actually worked on this together. We did it was supposed to be like a model space mission to an exoplanet. So this was a collaborative project between Ms. Klus's calculus class and Mr. Poore's environmental science class. So we took the things we learned about like geology and Earth systems here on Earth and applied it to different exoplanets and then made like a model space mission. So we used the calculus to calculate different orbits, and then we would talk about what we expected to find on the planet, how feasible it would be to sort of send a mission there and kind of create a colony. So that was sort of a fun project we used to apply a couple different concepts from different classes. And it's just one of many that we've done since junior year. Interesting projects like that across different classes.
So I'll talk about research a little bit. So we have a research class that's every Friday, and you have to do a cumulative research project every year, and you can do one for 2 years if you'd like. And it's a really good opportunity to learn about the scientific research project and to do something you're interested in. So though we can't choose our classes, we get to choose whatever we want for our research project. So last year I focused on the climate change communication barrier, which is when scientists have information about climate change, but it gets either mistranslated or just is not translated when going to the public, so the public can't understand that scientific information. So I did a project combining that and music, which is something else I'm interested in. And then this year, I'm doing a project at JMU. A professor's letting me use her molecular genetics lab. So I'm looking at like protein transcription in cancer cells and stuff like that. So this gives very good opportunities to do something you're interested in. It's my favorite part of Gov School, and you can really get as into it as you want. As she said, we have one student go into the International Science Fair. He did an astrophysics project. I participated this past weekend in the Virginia Junior Academy of Science. So there's a lot of different opportunities to like bring your research out into the real world.
Yeah, so Matt and I actually worked together on the research this year. We worked with an EMU professor, the professor of biology there. So we took microscopic worms called C. elegans, and we placed them under hypoxic conditions. So we decreased the amount of oxygen that they were living in. And we saw how that affected some of their behavioral traits. So how fast they were moving. We tested fecundity, so how many eggs they were laying. We tested how much longer it took to reach adulthood. So we were able to find something that we thought would be cool and interesting, and we dove into it and we took full control of it, and we ended up with a really cool research project this year that we actually presented on Friday. But this is completely different from what we did last year. We each did different projects. Matt made a really cool filter, and I'll let him talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so last year, well, so my freshman year, I'd taken a service trip to the Dominican Republic and lived with a host family there in a very small town called La Guama. And part of what I saw there was that they were using the same river for drinking water that they also used for their cattle. And because of that, a lot of the cattle waste was getting into the water, and they had a big problem with fecal coliforms, and that was causing a lot of sickness for the villagers. So my research project last year was to design a filter made of completely natural materials that would filter out all E. coli and other fecal coliforms from the water to make it more safe. And I completed that goal. I had a reusable plastic water bottle that you'd fill with layers of charcoal, sand, gravel, and xylem, which is the plant fiber from inside plant stems. And through kind of that porous tissue, all the fecal coliforms would get filtered out, and it made the water a lot more safe to drink.
So I don't do anything nearly as interesting as what they've done. But for the past 2 years, I've worked with ArcGIS, which is like mapping systems. Last year, I took a more global approach. I looked at sustainable agriculture practices and challenges across the world. So I classified them into different regions and then sort of looked at the big challenges to agriculture in the area, whether that's water scarcity or environmental degradation, something like that. And then would sort of look and research different solutions for these problems, and then created an interactive map based on global region that people could look at and sort of learn about different agricultural best management practices around the world. This year, I shifted away from that a little bit, still using GIS systems, but this year I'm looking at sustainable development recommendations based once more on the environment, but things like soil loss, erosion, water storage, just sort of modeling that using GIS data for applications for sustainable development and land use.
And yeah, throughout our research class, we have certain goals to meet throughout the year. We write an abstract, we complete a literature review using scientific literature to kind of back up our reasoning and also kind of direct us on where we plan to go, which I feel is really valuable because I feel like that's how it'll be done in college. Obviously, I don't know, I'm not in college yet, but I feel like that's kind of one of the most valuable experiences you get is this experience of how research is actually conducted in the real world. And I think I'll use that a lot in the future.
And research can really be whatever we want. We all have very science-based projects, but we have plenty of peers that focus on completely different fields. We had one student this year focused on how art therapy can be useful to both children and adults. She worked with a counselor who came in and she had us all take part in this art therapy. So that was a really cool experience, and it's a world of opportunities through research where we really can do whatever we find interesting, whatever.
I was going to say just about the college preparation, we get a lot of writing technique and writing practice, which is very important for college. And especially after having half of our sophomore year and most of our junior year online, we didn't get a lot of practice with that outside of gov school. So I think that is the thing I feel most prepared about for college. I'm confident in my writing, both the research writing and the scientific writing, and more creative writing for those going into the humanities.
Yeah, sure. So you apply towards the end of your sophomore year, and each school has a certain amount of spots they can send to gov school kind of based on the population of the school. And I thought this was a long time ago, but on the application, you'd submit like extracurriculars, GPA, classes you've taken, and there was also an essay portion. One of the essays we had to write for our application was, in the case of a global pandemic, how would you react? Which proved to be a very relevant topic in the following year.
And then to go off of that, so then each school division has their own selection committee, and then they go through that process. Well, so since I am not a part of that application process and I don't get to see those applications or those numbers, it really does fluctuate every year. So for instance, in Shenandoah County, there might be more applicants from Central High School one year than Strasburg, but in Shenandoah County, they put all the students in one pool and then take the those top 10 or 20. Where in Rockingham County, each high school gets the same number of students. And again, I think it just depends on how many are applying. So for example, unfortunately, Broadway High School last year for this junior class, they only had, I think, one applicant, which is very rare. I think that just happened to be during the pandemic and advertising and so forth. The hard way to answer your question, but I do think it's competitive. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm going to be double majoring in both biology and psychology at UVA. I'm hoping to then go to William and Mary potentially for graduate school to work with marine biology. So I have large interest in the sciences, and that's what I hope to do with my future.
Yeah, currently I'm undecided on what I want to major in, though I'm thinking somewhere along the route of psychology or neuroscience. That's just a field that really interests me. But yeah, similar to Jordan, definitely something in the sciences.
I'm deviating from the sciences a little bit. I'm looking to go the pre-law track at the University of Richmond and go on to be an attorney. But I'm thinking of fusing environmental science with law and potentially going into environmental.
I'll be studying biomedical engineering at UVA with a minor in either electrical engineering or computer science. And so it is a pre-med curriculum, but I don't know whether I want to go into like industrial engineering or go to med school after undergrad. So.
Yeah, so that actually wasn't a Gov School project. That was an application essay to be admitted into Gov School. I mean, in my essay, and this was my sophomore year before I got all the education I did at Gov School, but my initial plan was to shut down a lot of things, minimize contact as much as possible, which I think was kind of the government's plan as well. So, yeah. Yes, definitely.
I feel like we're qualified to answer this from East Rock. We have the longest commute of any of the schools there. So we meet the bus at East Rock at 6:45 in the morning, and then it takes us for about an hour ride to Mount Jackson. So we start school at Governor's School about 7:45, and our classes wrap up at 10:20, and then it's an hour ride back. So the bus was daunting at first, but I think a lot of students take naps. I do a lot of my work. It's like a built-in study hall. You have a hotspot. So yeah, you get used to the bus, and I think I definitely don't feel like I'm missing out on things at my home school, especially going into upperclassmen years. A lot of students have work releases or just take some time off. I think I would have been hard pressed to fill my schedule at East Rock without having Governor's School in the morning, but it definitely makes for a full day.
I'll just say that, yes, like the four of you and all the other students are still involved in all the extracurriculars back at their high school. And yeah, you get to do both worlds.
Yeah, and at HHS, we also have a STEM program that incorporates a lot like the sciences, and we're still able to participate in that even though we're away from our school for half the day, which is great. So.
So we get, there's some funding that comes from the state. Then each school division has a tuition that they pay based on the seats that they use for us.
So all of the classes can be dual enrolled, and that's through Lord Fairfax Community College. So if we want to dual enroll them, we pay the dual enrollment fees. But I was able to earn my associate's degree and paid like less than $1,000 per year, which is much better than going to college and getting the associate's degree. So the homeschools cover everything else except if you want to dual enroll.
So if you don't dual enroll any classes, it's no cost to the student and you receive the same education. It's just a matter of whether you're getting the credit or not.
For us, no. So we only pull from Harrisonburg City, Rockingham County, Page, and Shenandoah. How about some soft skills? Like public speaking. Look at you guys. You guys are awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Over the past 2 years, one of my favorite parts has been working with the director at Gov School, Mrs. Stream. She pulls on a lot of us to talk at events like this, to share a bit about Gov School, or maybe just talk to some students, prospective students at Gov School. So this, even though it's not part of the Gov School curriculum, they still use us to not use, but to gain some of these skills that are incredibly useful for the future. I'll be able to speak like this wherever I may find myself.
Yeah, one of the things I found really valuable from my learning experience in our literature class this year, it was taught like a college class. So we would have a homework assignment to read maybe a couple passages of poetry or a short story by an influential author, and then we come into class and we discuss that. And I think that newfound approach to reading literature and the appreciation for this historic literature was really important for me.
Yeah, just echoing what they said about soft skills and presentations. I don't think one of my friends at East Rock brought it up, but I don't think I've had to do a single presentation at my home school this entire year. We pretty much do all presentations at Gov School, lots of projects and lots of presenting, which I think is very helpful. And I enjoy, honestly. Presentation days are always very exciting because you get to present and show off what you've done, and other students have done other nice work that they see.
The presentation skills are very valuable. It makes like public speaking like this seem like no problem when you're speaking in a room of like 80 Gov School students for your research presentation. I think another thing is a lot of us, with being at the same school system for most of our school careers, haven't had to make new friends a lot. But coming to Gov School, you're like thrown into a group of people, some of whom you may know, but a lot of them you don't know. So like meeting people and making new friends in high school that are from different areas and have different school experiences, that was really important to me.
Thank you. Thank you again for having us. We really appreciate it.